I don't know, but I remember when she was making fun of the guy who got his dick chopped off and the wife threw it in the blender.
Right.
Or he threw it in the garbage disposal, and she
Yeah.
was laughing about what it must have looked like. His little wee rolling around inside the blender.
She's
Like
no
that.
one wants that. She's not anybody's
But
choice.
that's a crazy thing to laugh at. A guy getting his
Yeah.
chopped off and someone like he's getting mutilated.
Yeah.
His humanity is taken from him.
Yeah.
His manhood is literally getting ground
Yeah.
up. And she thought it
Hollywood always seems to find itself at the center of another controversy, but this time the conversation took an unexpected turn after comments made on Joe Rogan's podcast reignited debates surrounding Ellen DeGeneres. For years, Ellen cultivated an image built around kindness, generosity, and positivity. Her daytime television success turned that reputation into one of the most recognizable personal brands in entertainment. But as old discussions resurfaced online, many people began revisiting whether that public image truly reflected what happened behind the scenes.
a lot of people saying that someone who seems so nice is not nice at all.
She doesn't seem nice, but that people have a very poor judge of character. She doesn't seem nice. It seems forced. People that are like that all the time, she doesn't seem nice. It's very forced. And whatever, you're allowed to be a bitch, right? You're allowed to be a bitch. You're allowed to be nasty to people. You're accomplished. You're a comedian. You did the whole thing. What you're not allowed to do is have a Guantanamo Bay situation in the backstage.
I got kicked out of show business. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, because I'm mean. Yeah. Yeah, you can't be mean and be in show business.
The criticism didn't suddenly appear overnight. Long before Rogan discussed the topic, stories from people connected to Ellen's show had already sparked widespread debate. While supporters defended her, others claimed their experiences painted a very different picture. Those accounts gradually chipped away at the carefully crafted image viewers had known for years, leading many people to question what was really happening behind the cameras.
Ellen as well.
Yeah, I did the first 2 years on that show.
And she
She was rough. She was the C word. Yeah.
how was she mean to you? Like, what, give an example of like a day. Like, was it an energy thing? Was she just short with you? I mean, what was exactly
It was like
happening?
if you didn't pitch in her wheelhouse, then she looked at you like you had just f***ing stabbed her puppy. And then there was this process of pushing people out of the circle. And you want to be in the circle because there's a lot of fear going on.
Yeah.
And you're in or out. So there's a lot of like, it didn't really bother me that much because I'd written on a lot of shows before and I kind of knew what it was like to have tough bosses.
Yeah.
I wrote for Bill Maher.
Sure.
And so like, I was just like, tough enough, but then there was these first-time writers they used to cry. There was a lot of crying in the hallways.
Wow.
As more former employees and industry insiders shared their experiences, the conversation only grew louder. Reports from people who worked on the show, combined with stories from celebrities who had interacted with Ellen, fueled public curiosity. Whether every claim was accurate or not, the growing number of similar accounts encouraged people to take a closer look at the culture surrounding one of television's biggest talk shows.
This producer who worked with her takes issue with how she's addressing allegations that there was a toxic work environment at her legendary talk show.
The essence of the special really was totally a lie.
Hedda Muscat says Ellen's special hits all the wrong notes.
I felt Ellen was not taking responsibility at all. She was sugarcoating it.
The Ellen DeGeneres show went off the air after 19 seasons in May 2022, mired in controversy, including allegations of racism and sexual misconduct. Ellen addressed the allegations back in 2020.
And if I've ever let someone down, if I've ever hurt their feelings, I am so sorry for that.
In the special, Ellen describes the work environment she remembers.
It was a family to me. We had so much fun together at that show. We laughed all the time. We played games all the time.
I felt it was not a family. It was an atmosphere.
Media reports featured interviews with former staff members who described an environment they believed was difficult to work in. Several said they feared speaking publicly because they worried about possible consequences for their careers. Some alleged they lost their jobs after taking medical leave or attending family funerals, while others described experiences involving discrimination or uncomfortable workplace behavior. Former employees also claimed they were advised to avoid interacting with Ellen unless necessary. Many directed their criticism towards senior producers responsible for managing the show's daily operations, although others argue that responsibility ultimately rested with the host whose name appeared on the program. Those differing opinions became a major part of the public discussion as viewers debated who should be held accountable.
Kevin Porter asked people for their negative Ellen experiences on Twitter, offering charity donations in return for each one, and he couldn't have ever expected the massive outpouring of stories he got. With over 2,600 replies and counting, it seemed like everyone in Hollywood who had met Ellen had something awful to say. So many things that you can't think for 1 second they weren't based on the truth. To list just a few highlights, there were tons of stories about Ellen insisting that people shouldn't look at her or talk to her. She would not thank or even acknowledge people who brought her things like coffee, or she would just completely ignore the live audience when she didn't absolutely have to talk to them. One waitress who served Ellen and her wife at a restaurant was allegedly insulted by her and shamed for having chipped nail polish of all things. A week later, she was then fired after Ellen strangely and viciously complained about her to her managers. And if that wasn't bad enough, the majority of the complaints came from people who worked on her show. There were numerous reports of a toxic working environment, racism, prejudice, insults, and people would get fired for speaking up, or even just taking bereavement or medical leave. This all got the ball rolling, and from just one Twitter thread, the open secret.
Years later, Joe Rogan's comments brought many of those controversies back into public conversation. His discussion introduced the topic to a new audience, prompting countless people online to revisit old interviews, articles, and social media posts. Once again, questions that many believed had faded away suddenly returned to the spotlight.
Ellen situation.
Yeah.
You know, people found out that Ellen was mean, and all these people came out and said, Ellen's actually a bitch. And everybody, whoa.
Yeah.
Can't believe it. And she lost everything. She fell apart, disappeared, because people found out that this character that she was portraying in a half an hour on a television show is not really who she was. My buddy Greg, who was one of her writers, was like, she's a piece of shit. And he was like, she's a...
By this stage, Ellen's workplace controversies had already become widely discussed online. Then, another unrelated topic entered the conversation when internet users began comparing the design of Ellen's former talk show set with images of a structure on Jeffrey Epstein's private island after remarks made during a podcast discussion. The visual comparison quickly spread across social media, with countless users posting side-by-side images. Some argued the resemblance was purely coincidental, while others speculated about possible connections, despite having no evidence establishing one. As often happens online, a simple observation quickly evolved into a much larger debate.
No.
I know Jamie does.
What is it?
It's on the set of a famous talk show that's now not on anymore.
Oh, Ellen? Was that Ellen?
Yeah.
Really?
But just look at the temple and then look at the...
Let me see Ellen's background. What? Oh, similar. That looks like a building, though. Like
sure.
Yeah. Is that a building in LA? That might be a building in LA. Right, but I mean, it's supposed to be a background of. Yeah.
It's strange to use the same.
It is, but it's, you know, I mean, it's whatever. I'm not that impressed with that. That could just be coincidental. There's a lot of people.
Ask Alex about that.
Yeah. Well.
Anyone familiar with internet culture knows how quickly these discussions develop. Once Jeffrey Epstein's name enters a conversation, online communities often begin examining every possible connection, coincidence, and photograph involving public figures.
Rage growing as new details emerge from the millions of newly released Justice Department records on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. They include Epstein's messages with powerful men. In these messages from 2013, the convicted sex offender connecting New York Giants co-owner Steve Tisch with various women. In one exchange, Tisch asked about a woman writing pro or civilian. In a statement, Tisch acknowledging a brief association where we exchanged emails about adult women, but saying I did not take him up on any of his invitations and never went to his island. As we all know now, he was a terrible person and someone I deeply regret.
Epstein's social circle included numerous wealthy and influential individuals, many of whom have publicly addressed their associations with him. In discussions online, people frequently point to well-known names who appeared in records or attended social events, although those associations alone do not establish wrongdoing. The conversation also often expands to include public figures who moved within similar celebrity circles. Because of those overlapping connections, speculation regularly spreads far beyond what has actually been confirmed. Distinguishing documented facts from internet theories remains essential when examining these subjects.
We haven't seen before of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with very high-profile people, celebrities, people like Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson, like you showed, also like British royalty and actors. All of that we sort of knew was happening. I want to highlight specifically two for the public interest, and that is President Clinton and President Trump in these files. We've got new images now, some showing President Clinton in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell and a person who is redacted. Now, we know some of the redactions are because people are underage or because people are victims. We don't know anything about these people in these specific photos other than they're redacted, but this is getting a lot of attention here. Then President Trump. You see pictures of what look like a drawer with several photos in them of President Trump before he was president, younger version of himself, and several women there, as you see, some of them not wearing a whole lot of clothing. President Trump is also referenced several times in flight logs and in some cases even with his former wife Marla and his daughter Tiffany, who would have been a child at the time, and a nanny traveling along with Epstein that were in these.
One reason these stories continue attracting attention is the public perception that wealth and influence sometimes affect accountability. Critics argue that charitable donations, successful careers, and carefully managed public images can shape how influential individuals are viewed. Whether that perception is fair or not, it remains a recurring theme whenever high-profile scandals dominate the news cycle. Moments from interviews can easily become viral online, especially when viewers interpret a person's hesitation or reaction in different ways. A brief pause or unexpected answer often generates thousands of opinions, with people drawing very different conclusions from the exact same footage. Those interpretations frequently become part of the broader online narrative.
His foot, and I'm looking at his foot, and it has an ankle monitor on. But to me, what it looks like, it has a plastic thing wrapped around his foot with a black box on it, with a blinking light, right? And I go, what is this? And he flips around and he goes, take off your shirt. I froze. And the woman comes over and starts unbuttoning my blouse. She takes it off. Then she takes off my bra. And then she walks out. I sat in that room staring at the bottle of a Fiji water while a man was groping me and masturbating. And then when he was done, he stood up and he left. I couldn't scream. I didn't ask for help. And I thought this was all a dream. I sat back at the table and I answered the phone calls same exact way I did before. I never told any soul about this. I thought I'm going to die if I do.
Rosa says Epstein abused Florida every weekend after that. She is still haunted by an encounter she had one morning at Epstein's mansion with a man in uniform, someone she thought was a sheriff.
I thought to myself, thank you. This is going to be the day that this all stops. Followed, the sheriff walked in, Jeffrey. They giggled, they laughed together, they buddied it up. I just stood in the kitchen looking at this sheriff, thinking to myself, at some point he's gonna turn to me and be like, who are you? And he walked out.
Didn't say anything to you?
Nothing. And then I figured it all out. He's currently serving his sentence while he's doing the same thing to everybody, and nobody's there to help us. He was wearing an ankle monitor. He didn't stop what he was doing while convicted. He was doing the same thing.
One survivor, Rosa Gills, publicly described the lasting trauma she says resulted from her experiences with Jeffrey Epstein. Among the most disturbing allegations she shared was her claim that some victims became so desperate they hoped Epstein would become ill, believing it might finally stop the abuse. Her testimony highlighted the extreme psychological impact described by survivors.
This is not going to end around.
I am in a photo wearing something Jeffrey Epstein gave me.
One person from MC Squared that Rosa recently reached out to is Jeff Fuller, the agency's former president. She says unlike some others, he has not responded, but Fuller recently told CNN that he never saw any abuse at MC Squared.
He said, I'm really sad that nobody said anything.
And with how heartbroken I am already, that made my heart break even more. I guarantee if Jeff Fuller to book his daughter for a photo shoot right now, that would be the last place.
The damage left behind extended far beyond a single individual. Many survivors have spoken about years of emotional trauma, while others have chosen never to tell their stories publicly. Their experiences remain central to understanding the scale of the case and why it continues drawing attention years after Epstein's death. The focus remains not only on Epstein himself, but also on those accused of enabling or ignoring his behavior.
Percentage that get justice,
Yep.
a small percentage speak out because of that reason. You're vilified in the media. Nobody wants to believe you. I think the times are shifting a bit as us Epstein survivors have come together and are fighting this fight along with many other people in Congress and representatives who are fighting for us.
Yes.
And as you see in the United States, there's a big shift against believing survivors and not these big, powerful men. So Mendelsohn and Andrew, they were in his orbit. I mean, they had the choice as someone in their position of power to say, you know what, too many young girls around, not going there. They had the right to choose that, like many men do, but they were one of the ones that said, hey, this looks like fun, let me join in.
And even after the crimes came to light, both of them, we know, in their own various ways, stood by Jeffrey Epstein and advised him in some cases on how to, get out of prison.
Yes, and we are aware there were many men that checked out after it came to light that he was a prolific predator. There were many men that checked out, and these men, they continued to be friends with him. A lot of powerful men continued to be friends with him and support him and write little emails saying, I've got your back, I support you. This isn't fair, when there were, many young women who came forward during that time. But now we're aware there's 1,200 victims.
Wow.
So it's a little different now, knowing how grand and how many people, young women, children, teens, there were so many different,
If that wasn't unusual enough, the story later took another unexpected turn. Several content creators traveled to Epstein's former island, hoping to document what remained there. One of the most well-known examples involved YouTuber Andrew Peterson, whose visit ultimately resulted in legal action after he entered the property without authorization, adding another chapter to the island's continuing controversy.
Sued for going to Epstein's Island, which is insane because it's like, out of all the god-awful things that have gone down there, barely anyone faced any real repercussions.
All right, be really careful right here.
This video shows YouTubers sneaking onto the island that once belonged to Jeffrey Epstein. And the new owner isn't happy about it. Billionaire Stephen Deckhoff bought Epstein's 2 islands in 2023 to build a resort. He's since sued 9 influencers and conspiracy theorists, accusing them of trespassing. YouTuber Andrew Peterson told me, that's like buying a concentration camp from the Holocaust and like, yeah, we're gonna turn this into a resort. What are you talking about? I've spent years reporting on Epstein, and at this point, it's pretty hard to surprise me. But I was shocked when I read these court filings about the island's caretaker. She was originally hired by Epstein and was recently charged with assault for allegedly capturing and hog-tying one of these influencers. So how did all this happen? And what the heck is going on that island?
After Epstein's death, the islands were eventually sold to a new owner who announced plans for future development. However, the property's history continues attracting enormous public attention, and any activity involving the island is still closely followed by both journalists and online investigators.
After Epstein himself in a federal jail cell in August 2019, the 2 islands were placed under the control of his executors. And in March 2022, they put them on the market for $125 million. About a year later, a billionaire private equity firm founder, Stephen Deckhoff, bought the islands for $60 million and announced his plans to build a resort. His spokesperson told me that Deckhoff and Epstein had never met. But a resort has never been built, and Little St. James looks largely the same. The only visible change was that the so-called temple was repainted white, and the only construction permit Deckhoff has filed was to build a warehouse. That temple was at the center of many conspiracy theories that drew influencers to the island, and as far as I know, more than a dozen YouTubers have gone to film it. I spoke to Andrew Peterson, behind the YouTube channel SideQuest Drew. He chronicled his August 2025 journey to the island in this video.
Wait, watch out, there might be a camera out there.
We're gonna be gone in a second, right?
No, we still have to go to the temple.
He told me he was dead set on landing on Little St. James because he wanted to seek the truth about the island once owned by a famous pedophile. But YouTube videos like his are why he and 8 other people are being sued for trespassing. The footage shows Andrew and his friends renting kayaks in St. Thomas and paddling to Little St. James. Oh yeah, and a Category 5 hurricane was pummeling the area at the time.
Paddle, paddle! Go!
The videos show them rummaging around the temple and the main house. Deckhoff's lawsuits seek any money the content creators made from their videos. Andrew said his group had already donated $30,000 of the revenue from the videos to Polaris, an organization that fights human trafficking. A spokesperson for Deckhoff told me that trespassers pose a danger for the people who work on the island, and they will continue to pursue every legal remedy, particularly for people who film themselves trespassing and make money off these videos. Andrew told me his group anticipated potential legal consequences, including going to jail, which he said would be pretty insane. But because he viewed going to the island as necessary for his role as an independent journalist,
years later, the questions surrounding Hollywood, powerful public figures, and Jeffrey Epstein continue generating debate across television, podcasts, and social media. Some believe the internet often connects unrelated events, while others argue there are still unanswered questions worth examining. Whatever your perspective, separating verified facts from speculation remains important. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.